Hi there, so today we're looking at this bunch of graphs taken from the gridwatch.templar website. I'm going to focus in on one of these graphs down at the weekly and take a quick look at it. Now I've got to bear in mind here that the UK's installed capacity of wind can reach 25 gigawatt hours. So as you can see here, the total power, even on a windy January in a storm, isn't really getting much above half its capacity, and you have to wonder why. It's not too great when we've got the amount of wind we've got. And looking here at Wednesday, it's dropping really low, below 2.5 gigawatts, which is less than 10% of its total output. So that is poor performance at best, and it's wasting the installed capacity. By the by, if we want wind turbines installed for the power generation in the country, then we have to do something about it, and putting 10%, 1,000% installed capacity in isn't really going to cut it on Wednesday. Most of the rest of the week, putting 300 to 500% capacity in would get you there. So we have to think to ourselves, so we're going to put batteries in, or are we going to continue to install more and more wind turbines until we get a stable electricity grid? Now, obviously, some people will be saying, well, there's solar and hydro, and there's a possibility of tidal and wave power and underwater current power and all of these other intermittent power generation possibilities. But we're concentrating on wind here because they're all pretty much the same, as you'll see at the end of the video if you stick with me. You can see we've got the monthly view up now, and I've circled and highlighted a few areas where it's dropped below the 5 gigawatts power production, and 5 gigawatt is less than 20% of the installed capacity. So you'd have to go 5 times your installed capacity, so that's a 500% of capacity installed. That would increase your energy bills no end, but we want green energy, so this is what we're going to have to do. Now, in those lower echelons, do you really want to go, let's say on Christmas Day, when it went down to less than 2% of installed capacity? Then you're talking a mega amount of wind turbines would have to be installed just to cover electricity on that day. And the same happened again, obviously, on New Year's Eve. And this is in the windy, stormy part of the year. But looking at this graph here, you can see the monthly demand and the yearly demand. And in the summer months, the demand doesn't really fall off that much. But wind power does drop off an awful lot, as you can see. There's a bigger drop in wind power than what there is in demand. So then again, you're going to have to put even more installed capacity or batteries. Now, the problem with installing batteries is quite a big one. For instance, now Tesla has started making batteries. The globe as a whole can make around about 60 gigawatt hours of batteries. Although Tesla have just opened a new factory in China called the Gigafactory 3, and that will add another 30 gigawatts to the planet's supply. So that's 90 gigawatts of batteries per year. But for instance, on Christmas Day, if we wanted to have battery backup and only had 5 times the installed capacity, then you would have to have several years worth of the whole of the globe's battery supply delivered to the UK and installed just to have backup on that day. And this is not a joke. This is, these are facts, and you can research these yourself. So the conclusion I came to about 10 years ago was that if you had 170 times more installed capacity of so-called green energy like wind and solar, then you would have about 95% of your year covered without having to have batteries installed. Now, batteries are really expensive, and it would be more economical to have an oversupply of your green energies. So here we're looking at a spreadsheet I've downloaded from the gridwatch.templar website, and it shows you some detail down the bottom there. So we're looking at the installed capacity of each power production we've got there. So you've got coal, nuclear, gas, wind and solar. And then I've put a hypothetical line at the end there, which would be nuclear if it was installed at 25 gigawatt hours, as we've got wind, and would cost the same amount. And I'm sure you can read the figures there. I've just gone through that whole data sheet to bring those figures out. And they are live data which you can see any part of the day. I've also noted the waste products from these energy sources, and you may be going berserk saying wind doesn't waste 8% of its energy. Yes, it does. It's only 20% efficient in 2019. I've just done the maths. There it is. Go work it out yourself. It was only 20% efficient. Some people say it's up to 44. 2019 it was 20. Whereas nuclear, it can be energy positive if we use the right kind of nuclear reactors. So if you use fast breeder nuclear reactors and then disregard the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Act and reuse the fuel that it produces, you actually produce more fuel than you've used in the first place. So it becomes energy positive and not energy negative. It doesn't waste, it creates. So it's only because of the way that we use nuclear power that you get a little bit of waste coming out of it. And over the half decade that we've been using nuclear reactors, we haven't got that much waste in the whole globe to even be starting to worry about these 100,000 year storage problems, because it's just not a problem at all. It came out from underneath the ground. It can go back in there, or it could be sent off on a rocket and sent towards the sun. So get off your high horse with nuclear waste. There's solutions to it which are very, very simple. Solar, I've done the workings out generally on that. I didn't want to spend too much time on solar because it took so long to do the wind, but it's approximately the same as wind. It's very wasteful. It needs battery backup to make it any kind of sustainability. Hydroelectric, the same. It's no better than 50%. It's a lot worse than 50%. Although it's a very good battery, but it takes a lot of space, and we haven't got the space in this country to put hydroelectric pumped storage in place. So again, 10 years later, the conclusion is we need nuclear power now.